Hi, this is Fabregas, and this is the Ligue on podcast.
Here's Neymar now, Cavani is there, Balotelli on the turn, quality, Kalupa Kamano, oh what a strike, an absolute beauty for Florian Thauvin, Kylian Mbappe wraps it up.
Hello and welcome to Le Beau Jeu podcast, our podcast dedicated to Ligue 1. Coming up in this week's pod, episode 5, we head to Strasbourg for European Summit talks as Racing don't wait for May to book their place in next season's Europa League. We'll discuss the joy of Cesc with Monaco's midfield maestro. And PSG legend Yuri Djorkaeff also pops into the pod as the Capital Club home in on the league title. Joining me this week is Essex's finest Ligue 1 expert, David Crossan. How are you, David?
Very good, Matt. How are you?
Very good. You are also Essex's only Ligue 1 expert, as far as I'm aware, but there may be others. Pod debutant joining me today, Armel Tanguy, who is a Wimbledon fan with roots in Brittany, which explains his penchant for long ball football and for crepes. How are you, Armel?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Do you know what the French is for womble?
No.
Well,
is there such a thing?
It would be Womboul.
Le Womboul. And our Australian stalwart, Robbie Thompson, who has very kindly invited us into his home for this pod. It's a very swanky, arty appartement overlooking the River Seine.
Yeah, I hope none of the barges going past use their foghorns, because then it can get quite intrusive. Welcome, Armel. You know, in the great French tradition, we have to do a bisoutage. Okay. Which means you have to sing a song now. Stand up on your chair and sing for us all and all the people listening.
Do I have to hold a plastic bottle as well
as a microphone? Yeah.
Actually,
we've got real microphones, actually, so let's just go with that.
Yes, Robbie, we actually talked about this before, and we decided it wouldn't be good for the ratings to have Armel singing at the beginning of the pod. So instead...
Fair enough.
Before we bring in our special guests, and we do have two very special guests, two World Cup winners, Cesc Fabregas and Yuri Djorkaeff. We'll hear from them later. But we're going to start by talking about the Coupe de la Ligue final. We had a big preview of the final last week. Guingamp against Strasbourg, two clubs that are rather unheralded compared to recent winners, or recent winner at least, Paris Saint-Germain, who've been dominating this for so long. And the country was excited, Robbie, to see a couple of different teams in the cup final. The atmosphere was amazing. You commentated the game. The game itself...
I survived. It was a long evening on Saturday night, but a good one. I think a lot of people are saying the game didn't really live up to expectations. The pitch wasn't great. There was a new football. The players weren't used to it. There were lots of elements that at the end of the day, people don't think this final will live long in the memory. But for me, a scoreless draw that went to penalties, but between two sides, let's face it, Paris Saint-Germain didn't win a trophy. And that is great. And in this day and age, when you know in French football that Paris Saint-Germain start every competition as red-hot favourites, what chance does a Strasbourg player, someone like Dimitri Léonard, who's been at the club since 2013, Jeremy Grimm, these guys that come up, Lebo Motiba, who we spoke to, this is their chance to win silverware. They don't want to lose. Guingamp are in the same situation. They've had a terrible season. They've got a chance to qualify for Europe. My goodness, they could be in the second division like they've already done once before.
There weren't too many chances, Robbie, were there? Do you think
that's because neither side was prepared to lose.
Yeah, the tension of the occasion and the fact so much was at stake for these two football clubs in the end took over.
Absolutely. Well, for me, the fact we've been a bit spoiled in recent years with Paris Saint-Germain, who are able to go into a final and not worry about this is our one chance to win it. They go and score 4 goals against Monaco, who are sitting second in the league, or 4 goals against Lyon. I mean, they do this regularly. So we've been spoiled, and we think, well, every final should be this incredible attacking festival. Back in the old days, I was at finals when Paris beat Châteauroux 1-0, a header from Pedro Pauleta, back in 2004 or 6, 5, 1. I can't even remember.
Historic, Rob.
But that's what finals were. Everyone used to say, finals are terrible football matches. It's not for the quality of the football. It's winning a trophy. It's having your fans there. Your fans traveling.
Favourite phrase in finale, ça ne joue pas, ça se gagne. We don't play finals, you win finals.
But it's true, and we've forgotten that.
I was obviously thinking about 1988 when Wimbledon got a smash and grab against Liverpool. I'm not quite sure that you were old enough to be watching that,
Nope.
Armel. But you've been spending a bit of time in Gangon. I know you went to see Piri, the South African midfielder, who's been taking good penalties, but he didn't take a penalty in the shootout. And Gangon, having probably had the better of the 120 minutes, took some pretty awful penalties. It's going to be a tough blow for them to recover.
Yeah, I was surprised not to see Piri taking a penalty when I went to see him last week. He told me that was a symbol of his newfound confidence, the fact that he stepped up to take the first penalty in the shootout win against Monaco in the semi-final. And yes, as you say, their penalties were not the best against Strasbourg. Alexander Mendy blazing over from the first one. And then Binguru Kamara, who was stepping in for Matt Sells in the Strasbourg goal, saving one from... who was the one that was saved? Rodelin, who didn't look confident.
They only scored one, didn't they, out of
No, but isn't
four.
that's all part of the drama of it as well? Because going to penalty shootouts, everyone thought, well, this is Gangon's now. Gangon have won 3 of their 4 matches to get here on penalty shootouts.
And the only game they didn't win on penalties.
They had 3 penalties.
They won
and
at
won
Parc
on
des
penalties.
France and got 3 penalties in the actual game. Dave, do you think the Strasbourg fans played a role, not only during the game but during the shootout? Because Gangon were kicking in front of a huge cop of Strasbourg fans.
I don't think it helped the Gangon players, and Strasbourg's fans really don't care how this match was won. The main thing is that it was won, and they got the celebrations not only in Lille but also back at Place Kléber in Strasbourg on the Sunday, the day after the final, that Kamara actually revealed to the press that he'd only had about half an hour's sleep. I think some people got more than that during the game on Saturday night. I admit I didn't actually see the game in full. I was let out of the Ligue 1 household that we all share in order to do something else on Saturday evening, but I did watch highlights of it, and no, it wasn't a waste of time. It was good not to see PSG in the final. We needed a bit of variety, and I'm delighted for Strasbourg. They have terrific fans, and they've now won the competition for the 3rd time. I hope they get through the qualifiers and get into the Europa League group stage now.
And Gangon fans also have to know that you can't win every final you play in as well, having
done
won
well, yeah.
in
You
2009.
can only win for playing against Rennes.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
it, yeah.
exactly. Well, this isn't Rennes now, so
And I think-
Strasbourg, amazing. That's their 3rd win in the Coupe de la Ligue for a club of their size. Yes, historically they're a big club, but when you consider what they've been through in the last decade or so, we talked about it last week. They were in the 5th tier, just 8 years ago.
Yeah,
Mark Keller,
incredible.
the sporting director, has really turned things around. Now they have Europe to look forward to, and
mind you, they still have a little bit of a battle to get into Europe. They're qualified for the 2nd round.
Yep.
They have to win that. They have to win the 3rd round, and then they have to win a playoff against the national champions or the national.
the reward for winning is that the players
reward
don't
to
get
winning
any
is
holiday.
that there's no summer holiday. Exactly. That they get back in training in probably mid-June, and they're in action mid-late July. Well, late July they'll be playing in Europe.
I'm going to go back. Sorry, I just want to go back to Armel because he's a bit of a Gangon expert. Because I think he sees something Wimbledon-esque in them. The underdog, big, strong striker. I wouldn't say Efa Nkoku, but Marcus Thuram, he's probably a bit more technical.
Carl Lieberg then, yeah.
Carl Lieberg, but he's good, isn't he? I've been reading that Arsenal and Chelsea, I think other clubs are looking at him. He's Lilian Thuram's son. He's going from strength to strength. He played on the left wing in the final, worked very hard. I mean, he's got a big role now to try to keep this club up, perhaps before moving on in the summer.
Well, I think first and foremost, when you start your professional career with a name like Thuram on the back of your shoulders, you've already got something to live up to. Marcus Thuram's been in Ligue 1 a couple of seasons now, and he's getting better and better. And as you mentioned, he is often played out on that left flank, and when you see him line up 6'2", you could think just play him in that number 9 role. He's clearly capable of it, but he is someone who can dribble a lot better than most people might think or remember. He's got some of the best dribbling stats in Europe, in fact.
And his dribbling on Saturday night was really good. It's been a little while. He's been a little bit out of form. He's been trying to force it to get it back. It came back to him. He was really excellent in the final.
And when I saw him train last week, when I went to see Piri, he's got the calm and he takes his time on the ball that certain players who might have his talent don't. I don't know whether that's being lectured by his father, who's played at the top level the whole time, but he's certainly got something that the rest of his teammates at Gangon don't. and I think he's more than capable to make that step up.
I think Armel's touched on an important point in the career plan so far of Marcus Thuram, which is the influence of his dad. Marcus Thuram could have gone anywhere, signed anywhere as a teenager. He went to Sochaux, who were struggling, I think, in the top flight. They went down. He stayed there. He's played second division football. Now this for a young starlet playing second division football. Then he signs not for Paris Saint-Germain, not for Monaco, where he could have, where his younger brother plays, where Thuram has a big influence. Could have gone anywhere. No, went to Guingamp, playing in a modest club. Plays a first season, catches the eye a little bit. Only scores 3 or 4 goals last year. This season, well, less, 2 goals maybe. This year, now is his year, and now he can make that step. He's taken his time, and there's thought process behind there.
I can see him going elsewhere before the Premier League, to be honest. Athletically, he's definitely suited to the Premier League, but I could see him going to Germany, perhaps, where the football's definitely suited to a player of his style. And I think a couple of years there before England might do him well.
And he
Berbatov-esque?
Berbatov?
No?
Ooh.
No?
No.
I'll just add, he is born in Italy, so he might have a little stint in Serie A.
True.
As well.
Born in Parma when Lilian was playing for Parma in a brilliant Parma team. He's more of a runner, isn't he, Robbie? Than he's got more power and speed than
Yes,
than
but he's also got some classy touches, and he's prepared to he can beat a player from a standing start, which is what he did when he took on Lamine Kone in the box in the first half of the final. He turned him inside out about 4 times before shooting from an impossible angle on target. It was maybe at a stretch Berbatov-esque.
Let's hear from somebody who knows much more than Robbie Thompson about Marcus Thuram and about young players in Ligue 1. Cesc Fabregas surprised a lot of people by joining Monaco in January. He's only played for big European clubs fighting for trophies: Arsenal, Barcelona, and Chelsea. In all 3 of those stints, he was battling for trophies. He joined Monaco, who were in a relegation dogfight, but he's finding it a very interesting experience. And in particular, he's been impressed by the youngsters that he's come up against in Ligue 1.
There is a lot of individual quality, I would say. I think there are a lot of young players who they love to have an impact in the game. I think the La Liga, Italy, and the Premier League, tactically, that they worked for years before a little bit more, and I think they are maybe at a higher level. But here they are very strong, they are very fast. No one is afraid. They are all young players who they want to dribble you, they want to face you, they want to go against you, they want to attack. And yeah, that's been positive to see, to be honest. I'm enjoying the games, I'm enjoying the league, and I think it has so much potential because so many talents come out from this league, and I believe that the young players are very good.
Well, Cesc Fabregas has been impressed with all these young players. I'm sitting at a table here with some experienced Ligue 1 commentators, guys who've spent all of their weekends, or most of their weekends for the last few years, sitting there watching young talent. So I'm going to put it to the table. I want you to come up with an exciting young talent that perhaps our listeners haven't heard of or aren't that familiar with, that in the next 2 or 3 years we're going to start to hear more and more about. And I'll start with David Crossan.
I'm not going to go with a Frenchman, and people might already have heard of him as well. I'm going to go with Raphael Leao of Lille, who's 19. And in an example of lazy journalism, Matt, and none of us are guilty of that, he was labelled as the Portuguese Mbappe when he joined Lille, possibly because he was signed by Luis Campos, who used to be the head of recruitment at Monaco. And he's nothing like Mbappe, really. But the goal that he scored against Nantes was similar to Mbappe's, the rapid control and getting the shot away. Lovely finish. 8 goals in just 1,150 minutes of Ligue 1 play this season. He's powerful and he's going to be really special.
Raphael Leao, the Portuguese non-Mbappe. Robbie, who do you go for?
I'm going to go with perhaps a player that even this table might not be too familiar with, because we've only seen him a couple of times in Ligue 1 this season. Boulaye Dia from Reims.
I'm pretty familiar with him.
And he's not a player that perhaps will play one day for Real Madrid or have the quality to. He's a 22-year-old who's in his first ever season in the top flight. He was signed from Jura Sud or a club like this in the 5th division to play in the reserves this year to help them try and stay up in the 5th division. And he's gotten his chance and he's scored a couple of goals and he's a powerful striker. But it just shows the type of talent that you can find in France. This kid was signed to play with the reserves. He's been given his chance. He's finding the back of the net, and he's fast, he's quick, he's powerful, and he's a player at 22 years of age that probably thought he'd never get this opportunity. Here he is. He's making the most of it, and I think he looks quite good.
He's hungry, and he's
Yes.
forced Shei Ojo out of the reckoning. The player who was on loan from Liverpool hasn't had much of a look in, unfortunately, at Reims. Now, Armel Tanguy, we're all waiting for your shout with a lot of excitement.
So despite my disappointment at Guingamp being beaten at the weekend, I'm going to go with a Strasbourg player, 21-year-old midfielder Ibrahima Sissoko. Every time I've seen him play, I've been really impressed. Ability to get from box to box very quickly, calm on the ball, and some finish. Our mate Cesc Fabregas might second that from the goal he scored when Strasbourg won 5-1 in Monaco at the end of Thierry Henry's days. He's another one playing his first season of top-flight football this campaign.
From Brest, yeah?
Sorry?
Several seasons at Brest, I think,
yep,
where he came
absolutely.
through.
Spent a bit of time at Brest before, and he's already got 3 league goals this year. Now a Coupe de la Ligue winner too. At just 21 years old, he's got a couple of French under-21 caps to his name. And in terms of gameplay, powerful, good on the ball, as I mentioned, and he showed ability to finish too. For a midfielder that plays deep, rate him.
It's a good shout, but none of your shouts are as good as mine. I'm going to go with a very, very young boy.
Give us a couple of hints.
He's playing quite regularly in the Saint-Etienne defence.
Saliba.
And you guys all know him because you watch Ligue 1 closely. William Saliba, who is
17.
17, I believe. He was last time I checked, unless he's turned 18 in the meantime. But he plays with real maturity, particularly good, I feel, when they play with a 3-man defence, when they've got Loic Perrin and Neven Subotic, and he's got a little bit more pace and explosivity, as the French like to say. What's interesting about this fella is that he comes from Bondy, which is this suburb that is... I wouldn't say
Paris now. Everyone knows Bondy now.
It's a suburb of Paris where Kylian Mbappe came from. It's a suburb that has had a troubled past, like a lot of suburbs around Paris. There's been some high unemployment, some high crime rates. I've spent a little bit of time there. I've seen the facilities that they have, particularly in the local club. Football in Bondy plays a huge role. A lot of the young kids play football, and it's producing so many footballers. William Saliba is the latest. And by the way, Bondy is not the place that a lot of people describe it, and even in the media, it has a lot going for it. It's got around about 50,000 inhabitants. It's actually a huge, sprawling suburb of Paris. And I just want to bring in Yuri Djorkaeff because we haven't heard from Yuri yet. Now, this is a man who has been part of arguably France's greatest ever generation, the 98-2000 side that won the World Cup and the Euros. He was a top player, of course, for so long with Paris Saint-Germain, with Monaco, played for Strasbourg as well, which is why he was at the Coupe de la Ligue final on Saturday. He talked to us about the young talent in France and why he believes this country continues to produce so many superb players.
You sign in your own town, you know, with some very, very good club. You know, the league, let's say league, because there's different league in France, are very well structured, where the competition is very at a high level, you know. And every small club today, let's say, have already a program like not like a professional, but kind of professional, you know, even if they are all benevolent coaches, but they are dedicated to come, to learn, to train the kids. And I think it's when the kids arrive at 14, 16 around, they're already ready to go to the professional club. I think it's the difference between England, because I was in England, I live in England, I live in Italy, and I think the big difference is this all small club, very well structured, who's starting to feed the professional club.
Well, Matt, if you cast your mind back to when we first started a Ligue 1 website when I was living in the French countryside on the west coast, probably back in 2004 or 5.
Yeah, it was good times before
good
we had
times
kids,
back,
and yeah.
And I was playing for a local team, a local little village of 2,000 people, and coaching, well, assistant coaching, they're young kids that were coming through the ranks. And just to give you an idea, the player who was playing in the team with me would take an afternoon off work, would prepare entire sessions. And when I got there, it was like training with a professional team. And these were, I thought I was going along to sort of do, after school care with kids on a Wednesday afternoon. They were being put through serious, well thought out training sessions at 5, 6, 7, 8 years of age. Stuff that I never had when I was growing up, well, albeit in Australia where football, soccer wasn't necessarily treated with the same serious approach as other sports, but never did anything like this, and it was incredible.
Well, one thing that strikes me is the facilities in France. I've never played as a youngster in France. I recently moved out into the Paris suburbs, and I've got 2 absolutely stunning football pitches, artificial pitches that can be played all year round with floodlights, and the kids are on it every day. The weekend it's one match after another. When you go into Provence, because I'm lucky enough to spend some time in Provence as well, the smallest villages that have virtually nothing. They have a boulangerie, a poste, and they have a state-of-the-art football pitch
with good training rooms, good changing rooms, good everything.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think they have the coaches as well. I want to ask Armel, because I know that you've played youth football in England, growing up to a good level. So I don't know. I hear about the complaints, people saying in England that in winter we just don't have the pitches. It's all like they're just mud heaps. Do you feel that France have an advantage here?
I'd say there's definitely 2 things that differ from playing football as a youngster in the UK. The first being, as you mentioned, the pitch difference, that over winter French youngsters can practice their technical ability rather than just trying to judge the next bobble to get to the next ball, which is fun in itself, but a totally different game. And I think once you're playing on the nice pitches that professional players do play on, you're probably best suited to have grown up playing on AstroTurf pitches. But I think the second thing to be mentioned with that is often, even if the facilities are there in certain UK towns and the stadium is there with nice pitches, the main difference is that I noticed when I used to come on holiday to France and these village stadiums were always there with good pitches on them, you don't seem to need to ask 10 different people to go and play on it and find a key for it. It seems to be open to the community, open to the youngsters who want to use it, and that's how you get those stories of the guys that stay there until sundown with their brother and just play their whole time and end up playing professionally.
Well, it's interesting, and I think it is still a big issue back in the UK. England are producing some very good young players now, so they're obviously doing something right. But I do sense there is frustration that doesn't exist here in France, that the kids in France, if they want to play football, they can play football. Of course, the best example at the moment is the boy wonder, Kylian Mbappe, who, like William Saliba, grew up in Bondy, in a suburb just northeast of Paris. And, he was at it again at the weekend. He scored the winning goal. Paris Saint-Germain beat Toulouse by 1-0 away from home. They remain 20 points clear of Lille. They're cruising. They could even be crowned champions next week. Dave, Mbappe is just continuing week in, week out, really. He's got 27 goals in 24 games now.
Yeah, he didn't really have many chances against Toulouse, who defended pretty well against a depleted Paris Saint-Germain at the Stadium. But the stats are remarkable, particularly since he's been playing at centre-forward and Neymar and Cavani haven't been around. 7 straight games he's scored in the league now. Ronnie Lopez did it 8 games running last year for Monaco. Mbappe could just go on and on with this, become the first player to score 30 in a league season since Jean-Pierre Papin. Frenchman. Zlatan got 38 a few seasons ago.
38 is possible for him as well.
Cavani as well got more than 30, hasn't he, in a season?
Cavani 28 is top.
Maybe
perhaps. I don't know. I'd have to check my facts on that one.
Joseph Skoblar.
I want to mention Skoblar later. But Mbappe's goal was magnificent. He was given half a yard of space by Yannick Kozak from Kehra's cross from the right. Instant control, and then the speed of execution, as well as his fleetness of foot, is what sets him apart from the rest. The way he just guided the ball into the side netting of Baptiste René's goal was remarkable. And I think Eric Choupo-Moting could do with watching him a bit more.
If I can add to that as well, that you don't often see Paris Saint-Germain struggling in league games. They've won a few by 1-0 this season. And I think if you look at those often, Kylian Mbappe has been the guy to score that one goal. And at his age, leading the team like that, very impressive.
Well, let's hear from Cesc Fabregas again, because as I mentioned, he's been getting a feel for Ligue 1. He's been very much part of Monaco's revival. And of course, he has been watching Kylian Mbappe like we all do on a weekly basis over here. And he's been extremely impressed with the young Parisian.
Every time I watch Mbappe, I imagine myself behind him in every situation, and because I can see he's always on the move. He's always with his body on the right angle to make the run to get away from the defender. And I just try to analyze it and see it from the TV. Like when the midfielder has the ball, he's always looking to go on the space. And I just imagine. I speak with friends sometimes. I said, "Oh my God, if I had played with this guy, I think I would have enjoyed a lot." So yeah, he's got plenty of talent, and it's just the beginning. I mean, he's still so young. I mean, he's got so much to learn, so much to do in the game, and if he continues, for what I know and for what people tells me here, that he's a humble boy, you know, that he wants to learn, he listens, he likes to improve. He takes it very, very seriously, discipline. If he keeps going like that, the sky's the limit for him.
Well, Cesc Fabregas convinced that Kylian Mbappe can become one of, if not the best player in the world in the coming years. We've talked a lot about Real Madrid and Zidane perhaps wanting to sign him. We're not going to get involved at the moment with those discussions. We're going to continue enjoying Kylian Mbappe and perhaps see him crowned a league champion for a third year in a row, because 2 years ago he won the league with Monaco. Last year, in his first season at the Parc des Princes, he was crowned French champion. And again, incredibly, PSG could do it early in April. It all depends on whether Lille slip up. Lille are playing away to Reims, which is a difficult game. Reims are very... Yeah, they're away from home, and Reims with Boulaye Dia, Robbie's one to watch, up against Raphael Leao. It's going to be a real battle of the youngsters. But if Reims get a point against Lille, then PSG can be champions with 8 games left, 7 left for Lille, 8 for PSG.
Can equal the record of set 3 years ago of winning the league after 30 matches.
Is it a good season, Robbie? If you're French champions, it's a good season, but they've gone out of the Coupe de la Ligue and they've gone out in fairly lousy fashion as well of the Champions League, or very disappointing fashion against Man United.
Look, every season seems to look familiar for Paris Saint-Germain at the moment. 2 years ago when they lost the league, I think that was the most disappointing season, because Unai Emery's first, and Paris should never have given that league title away. They made such a poor start that Monaco were just able to ride that wave. Monaco were incredible to win the league, to be fair. But this season, certainly, look, the way they got knocked out of the Coupe de la Ligue was very disappointing. The performance, the Champions League is always disappointing these days, but they can set a number of records in Ligue 1. Is that saying more about PSG or more about the opposition?
Yeah, at least Guingamp had their first team out in the Coupe de la Ligue. Man United had their reserves out and still dumped PSG out.
Well, yes, but things can happen in a match. Well,
although Man United's reserves are still sort of £50 million players, which yeah.
Well, and the coach Thomas Tuchel said, look, the whole season cannot change on a VAR penalty in the 91st minute. The way everyone considers Paris Saint-Germain's season is on such a fine line, on such a fine detail.
That's football, though.
It is football, so why can't people understand it? Why does everyone have to go on the attack and say this is just a disaster? Paris Saint-Germain's season is the last 2 months of it don't count. That's football.
Because I'll tell you why. It's not a one-off. It happened 2 years ago in the Nou Camp. PSG last year didn't really perform over 2 legs against Real Madrid, and it's happened again.
Real Madrid, who went on to win the trophy for the third year in a row.
And it's happened again, Robbie.
Okay.
It's happened.
I know they should be winning the Champions League every year, Paris. It's easy.
No, should be getting into the semi-finals.
They should be getting, I think, into the semi-finals at least 8 years into the Qatari project. I want to bring in a man who knows Paris Saint-Germain very well and who won a European trophy with Paris Saint-Germain. It's Monsieur Yuri Djorkaeff, and he's a bit harsher on Paris Saint-Germain, Robbie. He feels that changes are needed if they're going to make that next step.
Paris Saint-Germain, after many years and success, have to, I think, rebuild everything. Restart from scratch and rebuild the thing, because the foundation are not good. You cannot expect in one day to win the Champions League with this kind of foundation. You need to rebuild everything, and I think it will be, maybe you will lose 1 year, maybe 2 years, but you will be sure in 2 years you will be one of the best club in the world. Not because you have Neymar or Mbappe, because your club will be the best in the world. We need really to learn, and we did, because I'm Paris Saint-Germain fan. We did so many mistakes the last 3 years. I think at one point it's time to stop it.
Well, it's a question of starting again. I mean, I feel that Yuri Djorkaeff
is ridiculous.
It's
ridiculous to say you start everything again.
No, maybe not start everything again.
Tear everything up. 5 times champions in the last 6 years. Every trophy won just about.
The problem is, Robbie, you've got some guys who have been there pretty much from the beginning. Thiago Silva, Marquinhos, Marco Verratti, Edinson Cavani. And they're all brilliant footballers, don't get me wrong. But I feel that there is something that they're almost synonymous with disastrous failures now in Europe.
In Europe.
And the feeling is that my concern is they'll get to the quarterfinals again next year, and then there'll be that wobble, because in their minds
Well, the quarterfinals would be better than the last 3 years.
I think there are new problems that have been bolted on as well, and I'm full of admiration for the careers of players like Dani Alves and Gigi Buffon. And 2 years ago, along with Gonzalo Higuain, it was those three that really did for Monaco's hopes in the semi-finals of the Champions League. They were both outstanding. But now they're 2 years older, and on the basis of what they did against Manchester United, they're not going to be the players that Paris Saint-Germain need in order to get into the semi-finals or even win the competition.
Let's move on. We've got 3 clubs to talk about. We're running out of time. I wanted to talk about Monaco. We've got Cesc Fabregas with us, of course. Since Cesc joined Monaco, it was very difficult at the beginning. They got battered 5-1 on his home debut by Strasbourg. Thierry Henry got sacked, and then they went on this excellent unbeaten run in the league that took them away from relegation. Fabregas, when I met him, he was very positive, really enjoying his time, very keen to explain why he joined Monaco. He's aware of people perhaps looking at this move and thinking, oh, he's just moving towards retirement, having a nice cushy life in Monaco. But look, he insists, he is determined to stay there for a considerable period. He's talking about at least trying to finish, maybe he talked about top 10 even this season, if they can push on between now and the end of the season, and competing for trophies at the start of, from next season onwards. What didn't go well, though, Fabregas was injured this weekend, and Monaco, they lost that unbeaten run under Leonardo Jardim. They lost at home against Caen, who were in the bottom 3, still are in the bottom 3. Armel, it was a significant setback for Monaco, and they probably did miss Cesc Fabregas.
It was a surprise too, because Caen weren't just in the bottom 3, they were rock bottom last weekend, and they'd just been beaten 5-0 by Saint-Etienne. Somewhat of a crisis there, but back to Monaco, yes, they've been certainly enjoying better form since Jardim's return. I think that was their first home defeat this weekend since his return to Le Rocher. And Fabregas has played his part in that, I think, in terms of his experience, perhaps more than in terms of his play so far. But we know what Monaco are made up of. They're made up of youngsters, and they always have to have a few experienced heads to get the best out of those youngsters, and I think that's why Fabregas is there this season, even if it's a bit of a different season for Monaco this year, having brought in so many, should we say, slightly less inexperienced players in the January window to make sure they avoided relegation.
Yeah, I think it was their first defeat in the league, home and away. They'd only lost on penalties in the Coupe de la Ligue against Guingamp. Dave, is it realistic for Fabregas to be saying we can be back where he feels this club belongs, competing at the top of the table next season?
I think it is, if they retain the squad they have now and they add another 3 shrewd acquisitions in the summer. Hopefully they'll be able to make Gelson Martins' move from Atletico Madrid permanent, because the mobility that he's brought back into the team, along with the fit again Ronnie Lopez and Alexander Golovin has now started showing the form that made him a standout player at the World Cup in Russia last summer. And I'd be excited for them with those three, and Fabregas playing balls to them. And will Falcao still be around next season? Will that now be the time for Falcao to start be thinking about accepting a big money offer from China, perhaps? I don't know.
Or the MLB wants to play.
Exactly. If he wants to be the new Michael Jordan, allegedly, in switching sports.
Hey, he's got a passion for baseball.
Yeah, apparently he wants to play.
Even Stevan
when he
Jovetic
retires.
played a few minutes against Caen.
Yeah.
But
I think he was good. I think Falcao was really good as a youngster in Colombia, where I think baseball is pretty much as big as football.
Oh, he has said recently he'd like to play baseball when he retires
incredible.
from football.
He came out and said he wants to play professional baseball.
Yeah,
as
some of
soon
his
as he's
shots
finished
this
playing.
season have looked like home runs, and with the Stade Louis
Out
II.
of the park.
No, to be fair, I think he's in double figures again. He's doing well, Radamel Falcao.
I think Monaco are definitely a contender for Europe next season. Just on their form, I've just looked on Ligue1.com, where you can put in a certain amount of time for you to get your league ladders. So from week 20 of the season to now, Monaco are sitting 8th in the league in the last 11 matches. So
Have they played 11 of those?
they have played 11. Reims are sitting 4th in the last 10 matches for them. The league table since round 20 of the season is Paris, Lille, Lyon, Reims, Marseille, Angers are there as well.
That's
it's interesting
good.
to see form. Monaco's form for a side that were down in the dumps are on the way back. And of course they can play Europe next season.
If we look at the real league table...
Look at Lille last year. Go, man. Sorry.
But if we look at the real league table, Robbie, they're down in 16th. They're only 7 points above the drop zone now. They should be okay. And Jardim has certainly steadied the ship and got them winning again. One other thing Fabregas was keen to sort of hammer home was the fact that he hadn't only come to Monaco for his mate Thierry Henry, because there was a bit of a feeling he was trying to help his good pal from his Arsenal days and from his Barcelona days out of a tricky situation. But Fabregas insists he is totally focused on the Monaco project, and he's actually really enjoying getting to know another top coach in Leonardo Jardim, and he had some interesting things to say about the Portuguese.
I didn't know him before. I heard of him. I heard about him, and his teams. But when you see things firsthand, is always much better. You can analyze a situation in another way, and he has his ideas very, very clear. He knows what he wants to do. He knows what the team has to do, and I will not say it's simple, but what he makes us do in training is normally what happens during the game. What I like about him is that he's flexible. He's a flexible manager, and he adapts. He always looks about what he wants to do, what his team wants to do, so us. But we analyze the opponents. If they have a weakness on the right, we will try to exploit it. So he's a tactician, very, very good man. And in a way, I don't like to compare, but the methodology that he uses reminds me a little bit of Mourinho. And I enjoyed a lot, as everyone knows, with Jose, and I am doing it as well with Jardim.
Now, perhaps the game of the weekend took place at the Beaujoire, where Nantes were playing host to Lille, and Lille under a little bit of pressure after Lyon had won on Friday night. Lyon getting a 1-0 win away to Rennes, thanks to Martin Terrier's late goal. And then on Sunday, Lille found themselves 2 goals down, 2 quick-fire goals from Nantes early in the second half. What a reaction, though, from Les Dogs. Armel, you were on top of this one. What happened? Did Lille come back and win?
Lille came back and won, yes. 3 goals in 7 minutes from that trio that's proving impossible to handle. Rafael Leao, Nicolas Pepe and Jonathan Bamba. Jonathan Bamba's winner in the 69th minute was worth mentioning as well, because Nicolas Pepe had a foot race with Nicolas Palois down the Nantes left-hand side.
That must have been close.
There's only one winner there.
Worth watching again. And he then won the ball back off Nicolas Palois, cut inside and did a step over, with all defenders expecting him to cut back out to fire goalwards with his left foot. 3 of them stepped out. He just crossed across the goal for Jonathan Bamba to tap in. So it was proof once again that Lille do have these quality players that can win games. They're not just young talents that are developing. They're the real business already. And it was helped a little bit by a late Valentin Esseric penalty miss for Nantes, who had already scored one in the game, blazed one over.
Was it
in
a
the
miss?
last
It was
10
over,
minutes.
was it? Because Mike Magnon's got an incredible record at saving penalties.
One in every
His
2.
first ever action in Ligue 1 when he came off the bench was to save a penalty.
Which
after a
may be influenced, or it certainly does, I would say, influence the penalty taker.
I think 1 in every 2 penalties Magnon's faced in Ligue 1 has been missed or saved.
It is difficult taking 2 penalties in a game. Thomas Mangani managed it successfully for Angers in the 2-2 draws. They came back from 2-0 down against Marseille on Saturday, but it's tough. I agree with Armel. The standout moment in the game was the Pepe assist for the Bomba goal, because everyone talks about the number of goals that Pepe scored. Those stats are inflated by penalties, as I say every week on this podcast. But what is more impressive is his composure and his pace and ability to control what he's doing at that extreme pace, as he showed for that goal there. And as a trio, they're very effective. And
Are
I
they
know
not
Matt's
a
mentioned
quartet
it.
with Jonathan Ikone?
I still don't include him. I don't. Matt mentioned how far Lille have come on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and since we last did a podcast, Christophe Galtier did a very revealing interview when he said publicly he was basically lying last season, saying that Lille were going to stay up and they'd be okay even if they went into the promotion relegation playoff. He said he used to go home, collapse, and be in floods of tears because he just didn't believe that they were going to be in Ligue 1 this season. And just look how far.
But that's the strength. That's the strength as well of a character and a manager to be able to put on that pretense to convince his players that they can do it, isn't it? And that's what he'll be doing now, trying to convince them that second place is going to be theirs, because there are some doubters, including Robert Thompson.
Well, that's right.
I think 2 weeks ago he said, yeah, I know Lyon are going to finish with a flourish. They're going to finish above Lille, but Lille still have that 4-point cushion. They're in second and they are heading for automatic Champions League qualification.
I'd just like to point out that when Robert Thompson left
Armel,
the
as I
office
was saying,
yesterday, it was 2-0 to Nantes, and he said, see, I knew it. I knew Lille would job up.
Superb moment. That's why, and I will also say something else I said in a pod last week, which was I don't bet on football matches or on outcomes, because even when I think I've got a result at 2-0 with 15 minutes left, well, my team can turn it around. Look, I did think, and I did say Lille will struggle with Lyon finishing over the top of them. I think despite the victory, and maybe if they can turn this character into a fantastic confidence-building performance, 3 goals in 7 minutes, maybe they can, but it's also a sign of, there was the late penalty for Nantes. They were down by 2-0. They won't be able to come back every week. I think there are a few cracks in Lille's facade.
Yeah, you stick to your guns, Rob.
I think more importantly for them that
die on my sword.
That we're speaking now ahead of Saint-Etienne's game on the Monday night, but with Marseille dropping points on Saturday, Lille are now 12 points clear of Marseille. So the battle for second will go to the last game of the season, I think, but they have an even better chance of finishing in the top 3 now.
Now, we're going to look ahead to next weekend because there are plenty of big matches, and this is our travel segment where we all love to travel. I've seen you guys at the train stations getting your espressos and your l'équipes, getting ready to get on the TGV and to do your research before the next Ligue 1 fixture. Who wants to start? We'll have a look at next weekend's fixtures, and I'd like you to tell me why and where you would like to go. Armel?
I can get us going, yep. I would suggest on Friday evening going to Bordeaux for Bordeaux against Marseille, the battle of the American owners at the Matmut Atlantic. And if you like drinks coming quickly to your seat, Joe de Grosser, the Bordeaux owner, as soon as he took over the club, said the queues to the buvette were far too long, so hopefully he's had the time to sort that out already.
That would be great if it actually was the battle of the American owners and they had like a wrestling thing in the middle, and Frank McCourt and Joe de Grosser got down to it before the big game.
That's pretty much
McCourt
it.
De Grosser's
a rumble.
De Grosser's the younger man and probably the bigger man, but
His name would suggest...
I wouldn't mess with Frank McCourt.
Literal translation would suggest...
and by the way,
Grosser.
Marseille haven't won at Bordeaux. This is
This is incredible.
An unbelievable
statistic.
record.
Incredible.
Because these clubs, they've been fighting for trophies for the last 30, 40 years. Marseille haven't won at Bordeaux since 1977. Unbelievable.
Incredible.
And, of course, they will need to go and do it. Bordeaux finding their feet under new coach Paulo Sousa. It's going to be an interesting one, and of course a wonderful place to go and spend a Friday evening. David Crossan, what's your fancy this weekend?
Short train journey on a late Sunday morning for me to go to Reims against Lille to see if Lille can get the result there. That means that Paris Saint-Germain can't wrap up the title on Sunday. I'd like to see it go a little bit further, even if we can't talk about a title race. And Reims is a beautiful place. You can perhaps have a glass of champagne. Don't have
Champagne's
too many.
good. They've got a Raymond Copper statue now.
And some very good restaurants in Reims as well. And you can just walk over from the train station to the stadium. Take about half an hour.
The cathedral as well.
That must be the only football statue in France, is it? Or are there others?
There might
now?
be one or two more, but yeah, it's not something
It's
the
not
French
something
really
that
do.
they do. Yeah.
They like to name stadiums after
Yes.
legends.
Yeah.
And
we've got well, apparently legends. There are some fantastic stadium names of people.
They've got Stade Raymond Copper in Angers, which is
also Gaston Gerard.
Arsene Wenger
Pierre
has a little stadium. I'm still planning to visit the Arsene Wenger Stadium just outside Strasbourg. Robbie, take us somewhere nice. Come on.
I'm going to go to Nîmes for Nîmes Caen.
You want the
just
sunshine.
because I think since perhaps Nice, since they moved from the Stade de Ré, the fact that Bastia aren't there anymore, Nîmes are one of these old school stadiums where, you know, you can still hear all the abuse coming from behind the goal. The fans, they're the type of fans, nobody likes us, we don't care. I think it's got everything for a big match. And look, Nîmes, they've had a fantastic season. They're nearly across the line for staying up. It's fantastic. Caen will be giving it everything, obviously, and trying to stay up. But look, I'm going for the atmosphere.
And you can be guaranteed attacking football when you see Nîmes Olympique play.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to go to the Parc des Princes just because it's local and
to win the league, Matt.
And exactly, they might be
there
celebrating, and I'm really keen to see Marco Verratti out there dancing again with some champagne. Should be fun.
Not with Ibrahima Sissoko around, he won't.
You never know. Strasbourg are going to be on a high. That concludes Le Beau Jeu podcast. Just before we go, I'm going to get a ticking off from our producer, Ian Holyman, because I haven't given you the email address.
Or mentioned Sunderland's penalty defeat in the Trade Trophy on Sunday.
It's been a sorry weekend for Mr. Holyman and the Sunderland faithful. But the email address that you can contact us on, and please do send us any questions you've got about Ligue 1. If possible, it's good if it's Ligue 1 related. The email address is ligue1podcast@gmail.com. Ligue spelt the French way, Ligue 1, the number, podcast @gmail.com, or you can hashtag us, hashtag Ligue 1 podcast on our official League account, which is at Ligue1_ENG. From David Crossan, Robbie Thompson, Armel Tanguy and me, Matt Spiro, it's time to say au revoir et à bientôt. We'll see you again for another Le Beau Jeu podcast next week.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Ciao.
Oh, what a strike! An absolute beauty from Florian Thauvin. Oh, the pass is brilliant for Pepe. And Thauvin.
Saint-Etienne has surely won it in the 89th minute.
By head. Oh!